Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's episode is called The Hugging Contest, an original story written for you by Daniel Hinds. Thanks! Enjoy the episode. The Hugging Contest. Once upon a time, in a friendly old forest, there was a wild commotion. Animals ran back and forth from tree to stream to cave to hollow, babbling excitedly about the big plans for the day. The birds chirped about it, the wolves howled about it, the mice squeaked about it, and even the bugs buzzed about it. It was all anyone could talk about, and as the start time neared, the gathering crowd grew louder and louder. It got so loud that it woke up Scales, a very long and very sleepy snake. "What's everyone making all this fuss about?" he asked, lifting his sleek green head and tasting the air with quick flicks of his tongue. He was in the middle of his afternoon sun nap, which he always took in a bright little clearing near the center of the forest, right on top of the rock he slept under. Usually it was quiet. More than quiet, it was downright serene. Not today, though. "Didn't you hear?" said a very small rabbit with very large feet. "It's finally time!" "Finally time for what?" Scales asked, confused. The rabbit rolled her eyes and twitched her cottony tail. "The contest! It's finally time for the contest!" "What contest?" Scales was more confused than ever. The rabbit shook her head. "What, do you live under a rock?" Actually, yes," Scales said. "I live under this rock we're sitting on now." "Oh, well, that makes sense then," said the rabbit, embarrassed. "It's the hugging contest. We're all coming together to see who can give the best, coziest, tightest hug." Scales lifted up on his long body and peered around. He saw animals of all kinds, from foxes and hawks to squirrels and sloths, and many more. They were all laughing and having a good time, and many a hug was already taking place. "Looks like fun! How do I enter?" The rabbit looked Scales up and down and then laughed right in his face. "How can you hug? You've got no arms. You're just a snake. You've got no charms. You're hooking fangs. Set off alarms. You'll never win. You best believe. I've got 2 arms like cotton balls, softer than a spring rain falls, more cozy than when mother calls. It's clear to see. It's best you leave. It's best you leave." The song stung Scales, not literally like a bee would sting. The song hurt his feelings. Was it his fault he had no arms? Or legs, for that matter? Was it his fault he was basically one long neck? No, it wasn't. And he wouldn't be talked out of the contest so easily. He slithered off his rock and into the crowd. Hugs were happening on all sides, and already people were comparing notes about who hugged the best. Scales saw a large, colorful bird hugging anyone who happened by. He didn't have arms either. Well, not really. He had wings, but did those count? No, Scales decided. No, they didn't. He slithered up to the bird and then raised himself out of the grass. "Care to hug?" he asked. The bird looked him up. Then the bird looked him down. Then the bird burst out in squawking laughter. "Quack! How can you hug? You've got no arms. The way you slither hardly charms. Your beady eyes set off alarms. You'll never win. You best believe. Quack! I've got wings of puffy feather, and they're dry in any weather. I give hugs as smooth as leather. It's clear to see. It's best you leave. It's best you leave." Scales had thought the song stung the first time. Well, it was even worse the second. Why would no one hug him? Did it really matter that he had no arms? Was he really that poorly made? Scales didn't believe it. He wasn't made wrong, he was just a little different, and he just had to look a little harder. He slithered back into the crowd. It was starting to thin a little now as the real competitors met in the middle. As he watched, a giant bear hugged a lamb so well that the lamb himself declared the bear the winner. Scales thought about challenging the bear next, but she already had a line in front of her. What I need, thought Scales, is someone tough. Someone who will be up for a challenge. He scanned the crowd. There, a slinky bobcat was laying on a low limb nearby. She was spotted and tawny, her fur sparkling in the sun and her whiskers drooping magnificently. She was perfect. "Hello there, my fine feline friend," Scales said, looking up to her on the branch. "Would you care to hug?" "Of course I would," said the bobcat. "I'm always up for a hugging contest." She hopped down from the branch and landed gracefully on silent paws. When she saw it was Scales who had challenged her, she started laughing, those droopy whiskers shaking. "How can you hug? You've got no arms. A hissing voice just never charms. Your flicking tongue sets off alarms. You'll never win. You best believe I've got these arms of silky fur. They calm and comfort like a purr. My hugs are huge. They all concur. It's clear to see. It's best you leave. It's best you leave." Embarrassed, Scales just slithered away. Was he really not even worth it just because he had no arms? No, he couldn't believe that. He knew he could hug. He knew it deep down in his heart, and he knew it fiercely. He just had to keep looking. He wound back into the clearing just in time to see the great bear win her contest against the wolf. "Another win for me!" the bear called after shaking paws with the wolf. "There's a reason they call it a bear hug, folks. I'm just the best hugger going." The animals had made a crown of golden flowers for the winner. It sat shining on a sun-drenched stump. Smiling, the bear scooped it up and set it on her head. "I'm declaring myself queen of the contest, unless anyone else wants to try." There was silence in the clearing. "Nobody? I want to try." "Oh? Who said that?" "I did," Scales said, uncoiling and lifting himself into the air. "I don't think I can match your softness or your fur, but I bet I can hug tighter." The bear laughed, and all the other animals joined in. "How can you hug? You've got no arms, and snakes aren't known for their charms. Your scaly skin sets off alarms. You'll never win. You best believe I've got both these huggers burly, covered with fur soft and curly. You've heard of the bear hug, surely it's clear to see. It's best you leave. It's best you leave." This time, Scales wasn't sad. This time he was angry. "That's it! I've had it!" he yelled. "You all keep telling me I can't do something just because I'm not like you. Well, guess what? I'm glad I'm not like you because you're all a bunch of bullies picking on a guy just because he's different." He turned to slither away, but the bear called out, "Wait!" Scales turned around. "Don't get all upset," the bear said. "If it means that much to you, I'll give you a chance." Scales looked at her skeptically, and the bear spread her massive, shaggy arms. "Let's see what you've got." Finally! Scales slithered forward and wrapped himself around the bear's legs. The bear hugged in with her arms, but the snake kept climbing, winding upward like lightning-quick ivy. He climbed higher, his long body encircling the bear in great rings from chest to toe. The bear tried to lift her arms, but they were pinned to her side. Scales began to hug as tight as he could, squeezing the bear tighter and tighter until he realized the bear was having trouble drawing a breath. Whoops, too tight, Scales thought, unwinding himself quickly and letting the bear draw a deep breath. Sorry about that, Scales said. I knew I could hug well, but I forgot that it's dangerous to hug too hard. The bear rolled back to her feet and laughed again. This time it wasn't a mean laugh, though. It was a good, real laugh. You've got no arms, but you can hug. In fact, I'm feeling very snug. It's what I get for acting smug. You're the winner, you best believe. It's not your fault you hugged too tight. The way we acted wasn't right, so best believe we feel contrite. Sorry we tried to make you leave. Sorry we tried to make you leave. Sorry we didn't let you compete, agreed the rabbit. We were quite wrong, said the bird. It turns out you don't need arms to hug. The bobcat nodded in agreement. Just because you're different doesn't mean you can't keep up with us. You just do things in your own way. And there's nothing wrong with that, agreed the bear, lifting Scales high into the air. Ladies, gentlemen, everybody in between, the first annual hugging contest champion of the forest. The crowd burst into applause, and Scales felt it wash over him, warming his body better than the sunny rock ever had. The royal crown, the bear called. She took the crown from her own head and put it on Scales. Of course, the snake didn't have ears any more than he had arms, so the crown slipped down over his head and just kept on going. The royal belt, the bear called. And they all laughed and cheered, and together paraded off into the forest. The end. Thanks for listening.